Welcome to Big Little Stories. I'm Ivy Charmatz. Many years ago, I produced a nightly live talk show called Jersey's Talking with Lee Leonard. We used to have a lot of fun on that show, but some of the most fun we had was when Stormin Norman Seldin would come on the show. He'd bring his band, and between the music he played and the stories he told, it was clear, very clear, why he is a legend and highly regarded as one of the originators of the Jersey Shore rock and roll sound. I am so honored he's here with me today. Thank you for being here, Norman. We were just talking. I think I've known you for like 23, 24 years at this point.
It's a long time.
A long,
A
a,
long time.
a long time for sure. So I want to start with something because I think that I love that you're honored in this way. So outside of Convention Hall on the Asbury Park Boardwalk, there's a plaque that acknowledges the originators of the sound of Asbury Park. That really like very iconic Jersey Shore sound. And you're one of the originators of that sound. You're named on that plaque. How do you describe what that sound is?
The sound of Asbury Park is a mixture of everything from rhythm and blues, country western, rockabilly, uh, blues. It's every kind of. It's a mixture.
Yeah.
It's a sound that's hard to describe because everybody has a different version of
Mm.
the sound of Asbury Park. It's only a 2 mile area if you're really in stretch. Um, I think I was the first person at 14 to put horns on my recording sessions before anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, uh, it's just something I did. Not many kids did that when they were 14 years old. So um, uh, everything's different. Everybody has their own version of the sound of Asbury Park.
Yeah. Well, so you talk about being a kid, and I want to talk about you as a kid and how you got started because you started playing the piano when you were just 3, correct?
Correct.
And you, I'm going to read this because so by the time you were 13, you were the youngest member in the history of the American Federation of Musicians.
Yeah, younger than Neil Sedaka, younger than any of the pianists. It had to be approved by the Chicago Union at the time.
And your parents were musicians, right? Your dad was a bassist, was a
My
symphonic
dad was with the
bassist.
National Symphony Orchestra. He had Philharmonic. My mother was a Juilliard voice student whose father would not pay for her $150 tuition because he believed down south that all women should have children and cook for their husbands.
Mm.
But she followed her own talents and ended up in all the operas and operettas and that on her own.
So did music? I mean, it was in your blood, but did it come easy to you?
Um, I think at first it was a punishment because I used to dance and I used to the old '78 records. I used to dance on the kitchen floors that were tile to Woody Woodpecker, and the records would fall and break on the floor. And I thought it was hysterical until my parents came home from work and found out that they were all his Caruso collectibles from 1978s from the 20s and 30s. I had broken every one of them. So they figured I was out of order, and
Yeah.
I got trashed. And about 3 days later, there was a Steinway piano sitting in the front room, and you're starting piano lessons. That's it.
And that started a very long relationship with for you with Steinway, and I know we're gonna talk about that. But um, who were your influences? Who did you like to listen to?
When I was young,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
when I was young, of course, there was always Horowitz, but there was a young pianist who had just signed with Columbia. His name was Dino Lapati.
Mm.
He died at the age of 31. By the time I was 4 or 5 years old, he was gone already.
Oh
But
wow.
he played the most beautiful. If you look him up, he made dozens and dozens of albums, and played the most gorgeous Chopin in the world. And they still have the Dino Lapati School in Europe to study. Uh, he was my piano idol, and of course, a little bit after that, of course, I watched Liberace with my milk and cookies with my mother, and that's all I had for starters because any kind of other music was not allowed in my house,
Mm. Mm.
and
Um,
I was raised. It was a strange childhood.
well, but something must have been going right because you were just a young teenager when you started your first band, right? The Naturals. Was that the That was the band?
Well, my first called the Nap, and that's when they had the little shows at the Deal country club, and everybody used to dress in nice jackets and pants, and
Yeah.
we'd come in, and 10 or 12 different groups would play. But I played my own eighth grade graduation dance too. Uh,
Oh, really?
yeah, with my
Wow.
band.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was quite unique, to say the least. Um, so I did a lot of things other people didn't do, and then uh, when I was of course, it was Hebrew school every day from the age of 5 till when I was 13, Orthodox, and they dropped me off in Long Branch. I'd take the bus back to Red Bank. I'd have to sweep the jewelry store, go right home and start practicing 3 to 6, anywhere from 3 to 8 hours a day, seven
Wow.
days a week.
Did you like it? I mean, it's a lot of practicing. Did you like it?
I had a abusive childhood because
Mm.
of something, and it was my savior. It
Mm.
was where I felt protected, uh, being around the piano. So it made me intensely practice, sometimes 8 hours a day, 3 hours from 6 in the morning till I went to school, and then after Hebrew school, another 3 hours. Sometimes on a Sunday, all day, never stopped,
Wow.
and realized at the age of 3 that I was cursed with a photographic memory. So I remember every wrong note that I played, even
Mm.
to today. When I hear a young student play it, I said, "Oh my gosh, here it comes." And I wait for the wrong note, and then when it doesn't happen, it just moves on.
So, but not long after that, though, you not only were you playing, you were managing and promoting and recording other artists too, right? I read somewhere you were so young when you were doing that that your mom had to drive you to the gigs that you were promoting because you didn't have a driver's, you weren't driving yet.
I was 14. I finished high school, a private tutor, went through Manhattan School of Music, and then at 14, I started recording in New York at Broadway Recording, the Ed Sullivan Theater Building. Everything from a cappella to all local groups, managing them, dressing them, and my mother was writing the checks. And I started running teenage dances, drawing 500 to 1,000 people a week.
I know also you have a story about playing and you were the person that kind of introduced Clarence Clemens to the scene. And is it true it all started because someone got a flat tire?
He got a flat tire right in front of the John Barleycorn, came in looking for a phone booth. They had those such things then. And he said, "Oh," and I'm standing there with an afro that's as big as Billy Preston's, and he walks into their phone booth. I said, "Yeah." And he looks, "Oh, there's a band." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You let people sit in." Clarence was huge.
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, what do you play?" He said, "Sax." I said, "Sure, you can sit in." And I said, "What would you like? Would you like King Curtis? Would you like Junior Walker and the All Stars?" He goes, "You're all white. You play that stuff?" I said, "That's all we play.
Wow.
Old oldies and blues." And he sat in, and the audience was all white. And if you saw the faces on them when they saw a black guy in that band,
Yeah.
it was like, "What?" It was not the first time that happened. It happened in 1965. I had Harry Ray, which later became Ray Goodman and Brown, Love in a Two-Way Street.
Mm.
And I picked Harry out of the Valtiers, and he came to me one day after being with the band and going in the Army. He came out of the Army. He said, "I want to come back with the band. Can I audition?" I said, "You start tomorrow." Then he
Wow.
came one day. He said, "How much do I owe you for to let me out of my contract?" I said, "Our contract was a handshake." He said, "Well, I have a chance to record on Stang, and they're going to call the group Ray Goodman and Brown." And uh, and I heard the song. I said, "Go record this song. Have a career." I said, "Just don't forget who helped you. That's all."
Yeah.
And I even called Motown. I said, "I got a kid that's 16." I said, "His name is Harry Ray." I said, "You should sign him." He said, "No, we've got Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye. We don't need anybody else."
Wow.
And I was introduced to the entire black radio network by Jocko Henderson, who was the head of WADO, and he also did the Armed Forces radio broadcasts. So
Mm.
when he went in and took me to a meeting at Ray Charles Tangerine Music, I was the only white guy in there. And they said, "What's he doing here?" He said, He brought his records from all his groups. He only manages black groups. I want all of you to take his records. I want all of them to be pick hits in the week. That included North Carolina, South Carolina, Charlotte, Florida. He said, I want to hear them all in the air and I want to see them on the charts, including DC. And inside of 3 weeks, they were all on. So,
It, and I said this too, but your career and the way you've really brought people together, it does speak to the power of music and just to how much you've done to really just make an impact on the industry. We're going to take a very quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk to you about some of the things that have happened since then, including I know you had a life-changing moment on stage at the Parker House. I want to talk about that because I know that was very big for you. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Big Little Stories. We're talking to Stormin Norman Seldin. Norman, I know I think when I met you all those years ago, it was soon after something happened. You were at the Parker House, right? You were on stage. Tell me about what happened, because I know that had a profound impact on your life.
well, you actually met me before. I did a show or two before, and then I came
Oh,
on
that's right.
after. Because I think we're the only ones who were on 3 times or 4 times, and
Yeah.
the repeats were incredible. Um, I was just playing with the group, and all of a sudden I felt fine. I did one set, and then all of a sudden I started feeling I hit my funny bone from the top of my head to my toes about 1,000 times harder, and everything was spinning like you see in the movie.
Yeah.
And I asked one of the doormen, I said, "Get me outside. It's hot in here." And I was right underneath the air conditioner. It was freezing. And I blacked out. I was out, I didn't know how long, but I woke up on the back deck with all the paramedics. And they said I turned gray. They said, um, I looked at my watch. I said, "Oh my God, my wife is going to kill me. I always call her on a break." And they said, "Well, your stuff is all packed up. You're done. You've been out for like 45 minutes. I said, "What?" He said, "Do you want to go to the hospital?" I said, "No, I want to go home." So, of course, somebody drove me home. Jamie was furious, and she said, "What happened?" I said, "I didn't feel good." So Jamie was a 1 glass of wine drinker. She said, "I'm going to have a glass of wine, but if I drink this glass of wine, I'm not driving you anywhere. You want to go have a check?" So I said, "Fine." Went down to the hospital, and they decided I had pancreatitis. That was their assessment. But she said, Can he stay overnight? We'll check him in the morning for the other things." They said, "Yeah." So I was in there overnight. I got up the next morning, went to the bathroom. All of a sudden, the same hit the funny bone 10,000 times harder. My whole body shook. And I don't remember much except my wife walked in from the jewelry store, and the orderly, who was a customer in the store, was smacking me in the face to come back. And that's when Dr. Belushi, thank God, came in. He said, "What is going on?" He took a quick look, and he called, grabbed the phone, and he called down in Jersey Shore. He said, "We have gray matter coming, and it's an aortic dissection." I had no idea what that was. I was still groggy, but that's when he said he needs to go now. We got about 25 to 30 minutes. We have no chance. And I didn't know what the story was because Jamie was there, and my singer Pam, who's her best friend, both of them were together. They didn't know which was my wife. And it took 9 hours for that operation. It turned out that I had an aortic dissection, which was the same thing John Ritter had. He died in 20 minutes. And they had to take my complete heart out and put me on life support and put a new synthetic aorta in and an aortic valve, and then reattach all the arteries and then shock you and see if you come back.
How did that
And
experience change your life, change your outlook on life? And I know I've heard you talk about this, and I read it too, that you it was the desire to play and your passion for music that helped you recover from
it
that.
was that, but I crossed that line that people talk about, and I'm unconscious. I know nothing, and I see this. like a gold and a yellow looking halo, and I'm starting to cover with this line,
Mm.
and I see two hands. One was my wife's hand, and one was my daughter's hand, and they were pulling at me to come back to the other side,
Wow.
and just yanking. And I could tell because my daughter just got a ring from the store, and my wife's fingers were very small, and I saw her ring, and they were pulling, and all they were doing was come back. That's all I remember from 9.5 hours of surgery.
Wow. Wow. And then what did it feel like when you took the stage for the first time after that?
I was told I couldn't go back on stage for at least 6 months, and I said if I'm off for 6 months, I'll never be able to come back because
Mm.
I was booked for 3 years in advance. So the doctors, after two visits, and they found out I had no fluid in my lungs and everything, they said, "Well, you can go back." But we played outside. That was the summer. It was 108 degrees out. He said, "This is basically a suicide mission." I said, "I have to go back,"
Mm.
and said, "Okay, you can do 2 nights." I said, "No, I have to do four." Uh, and everybody thought I died, even in Point Pleasant. When one of my musicians went down, they said, "When is Norman's funeral?" We're so sick. He's not dead. They all thought I died. Uh,
Wow.
so I sent an email out that I would be appearing down in Bayville, that I would be there, and it was an outside job. Oh God, it was at least 110. And I looked in the audience, and he called me about 4 in the afternoon. He said, "What did you do?" I said, I sent my email out. He said, "I have 395 reservations for tonight." He said, "You're playing outside. You can hold about 150 out there by the pool." He said, "But I only have 100 seats inside." He said, "Just don't send anymore." So when I went up there, they set my stuff up for me. And Jamie was in the audience. I looked around, and there were more doctors and nurses there. I think they were afraid I was going to take the bullet at that time.
Mm.
I think it was 110 degrees out. And instead of opening the set with something bouncing, I sang the hardest ballad I could sing. And it hurt. And
Wow.
got through the first set. Everybody was waiting. I went behind my truck, and nothing but blood came up. It
Oh
just
my
came
God.
pouring out of me from, but I was all right. I just told the guy, I said, "Listen, I'll be ready in 10 minutes. Just let me mouthwash and go back up." Finished the night out, and never stopped after that.
Wow.
I just kept going.
Um, you've mentioned Jamie a couple of times, and I want to talk about your wife, Jamie, the love of your life. You're married for 34 years, right? I know she recently passed away just this past year. Uh, it's been a hard year, I know, but I know that you're also doing so much to honor her memory. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you're doing that?
She when she had all her faculties, and until the last couple of months, we had birthday parties for her, and Pam and everybody would show up. We'd sing, and um, we decided that she didn't want to go. She said, if you do a show, you're going to spend money on everything. She said, let's choose some charities that I like, and she wanted to choose a place, um, that takes care of women. That's in Ocean Grove,
Mm.
where women that have cancer can go and relax, and they're not publicly funded, and also the New Jersey firm that takes all of the people that don't have insurance. They see them for uh, well, like I'm being seen for counseling. They take minors. They take marriage counseling, people in distress, and
Yeah.
and they're supported by individual funds. So the letters that I've been sending out are for these places, and when it all comes in, it's going to be split up, and it's going to be donated in two different checks in Jamie's name to the places of that of that nature.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had the pleasure of meeting Jamie, and I know she was such a remarkable and special and beautiful woman, and I think what you're doing is just it's just so special, and I know I know how much that means to you. We could. I feel like we barely scratched the surface. We could talk for so much longer about everything that you've done. I do just want to mention though that your book came out. You don't know me, and there's one thing in here that I just wanted to read to you. You said that after completing this book with dozens of true, good, bad, and ugly stories, I did finally realize that my best friend from the young age of 3 until now is a Steinway and Sons piano. It was my only savior when times were really tough. It most likely saved the sanity of a very small boy wanting to be much older, and it has gotten me there. What has music meant to you in all these years?
Everything.
Yeah.
Um,
I
to,
mean,
to be, I'm gifted for that.
yeah.
Uh, I was just cleared by my cardiologist and my best friend, who was also Jamie's. He said, "You've got hands of a 50-year-old, a voice of a 50-year-old." He said, "You'll be in constant demand. All you have to do is just go back out there." We just finished Light of Day 2025.
Yeah.
It was spectacular.
Ugh.
Uh,
Norman, people have to check out your book because I think the book probably could have been like 3 more volumes just of what it is. But the
we,
stories in
we we
here,
cut 300 pages
I can
because
imagine.
there was a lot of stuff. You want to have something that's sensible to read.
Yeah.
And Charlie Horner is a historian,
Yeah.
and in fact, he's um, the head of the new Asbury Park Museum is breaking ground in 26,
Yeah.
25 actually, and it's going to be wonderful. It's a
Amazing.
gorgeous building.
We are just about out of time, but we like to end every show with asking everyone the same question. So I'm just gonna
Oh boy,
run through them with you. It's real easy. So how do you get yourself out of a bad mood?
I sit down and play.
I knew that was gonna be the answer. And what's your go-to karaoke song? I mean, do you do karaoke?
No,
No, but when you just like wanna, what song do you sing in the shower?
I really I have one song that most people don't even know. I don't sing in the shower.
Okay.
Uh, Sometimes melodies stay in my head. They just
Mm,
they won't go away. But the song that means more to me personally is by the writer Mark Cohen
oh yeah.
that did Walk to Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
It's called The Things We Handed Down.
Mm,
If you listen to that, it's heart wrenching.
that's
It's
beautiful.
stuck in, would you like to be like your mother or like your father? Uh, would you give up this to be that? It's an incredible song. Uh,
And our last of our three big little questions here is, do you have a favorite spot in New Jersey? What's your favorite spot in New Jersey? Or one of them?
Gosh,
I mean, I know Red
uh,
Bank has always been so important to you, right?
Red Bank really pays no attention to me. So
Mm,
they pay attention to Count Basie, not to me.
yeah.
I'm the leftover fact. I enjoy I don't go into a venue unless I enjoy it.
Yeah.
As far as small venues go, I enjoy the R Bar in Asbury Park more than anything around here because it's a New Orleans setting and that's where I'm based out of. As far as you know, the kind of music I play and the way they treat their musicians and the just the wonderful setting of being in another world when you walk
Yeah.
in there. You just don't expect it. It's the same as artists. As sometimes yes about artists. The most phenomenal artist to me, in my mind, has been Joni Mitchell for all my
Mm,
life.
mm.
Her
Um,
voice, her songs,
it's amazing. Amazing. Stormin Norman Seldin, you
incredible.
you are definitely a legend. I'm honored to have been able to call you my friend for so many years. Thank you so much for being here on Big Little Stories. I appreciate it.
And you still owe me a dinner, or I owe you a dinner. You know that. I'm for
You
about
got
eight
it.
now.
You got it. You got it. Thank you so much. I will talk to you soon, my friend. And that will do it for today's Big Little Stories. I'm Ivy Charmatz. Please check us out, Big Little Stories Show on Instagram, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.